Welcome to Grays Westminster's Tea Party with the wonderful Joe McNally. Yeah, enter applause
Lord,
here.
I didn't know I was coming to a tea party. I would have dressed better.
We should have brought tea. How are you?
I'm doing well. I mean, nothing to complain about because here I am in London, again, one of my favorite places, and in Grays, which is, I'm not just blowing sunshine in your direction. I love this store, and it's a walk down memory lane for me, to be sure, as well as all the new stuff that's coming out. So having a relationship like this, I always advocate for photographers to establish a relationship with a camera store. I'm a big fan of the local camera store.
Absolutely. And support your local camera store should be a bumper sticker.
I think T-shirts, everything, baseball caps, you name it.
Exactly. And not that you guys are local, you service all the world, but the storefront, the idea of a physical reality of a camera store is really powerful for me.
Absolutely. And you're here for a workshop that you're doing.
Yes, we start tomorrow with a private workshop, and then we have 2 days of rock and roll lighting with the AKA last ex-witness, Seth Miranda, is coming over. He's in the air right now. He regrets not being able to be here.
Yeah,
but the two of us are teaching. We have a full workshop. We have beautiful talent. We're staging at a very professional studio here in London called The Loft. And we have basically the entire upper floor rented, 3 separate studios. So we'll be there for 2 days, and we'll just, we'll run lighting up, down, and sideways.
Amazing. That's super cool.
And is it an entry-level workshop, or is it well advanced, or is it somewhere in between?
It's probably somewhere in between, though I do have some folks who are experienced, and I do have some folks who are beginning their journey. But the beautiful thing of being able to segue off into different sets and different teams, you can detail, if you will, or organize the lighting so that you're at a basic, simple level. People get their feet wet, and then we can also graduate to something a bit more advanced, maybe with grids, colors, gels, hard light, soft light, showing all the differences that you can create with lighting in a closed environment like a studio.
Yeah, the lighting can be quite complicated, especially for people just coming in and being completely new to that. What would be the first advice you would give them?
About lighting or?
About the lights and just getting into the whole flash system or studio lights.
Sure. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you could say. They sound like, kind of old, proverbs, but understanding light is a process you accumulate over time. And your awareness of light has to start with the first time you pick up with a camera. The very name photography is from a Greek root, to write with light, photographos. And we start doing that at a very formative stage when we're just beginning to learn the camera and how to work it, how to approach people, how to tell good stories. I always say that light is our language, and to tell good stories, we have to be proficient in our language. So it's just it's a process of accumulated wisdom.
Yeah, that was very profound.
That's right. And I also want to say is you almost should write a book about that, but you already written like 2 or 3 of those. So
I was going to say, Kon, you're a little behind the curve, but that's nothing unusual, is it? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding you.
I grew up on your books. When I was studying photography, I bought your flash book, and you signed it for me last 2 years ago, which it's now framed. I don't touch it, but it's one of the things that if you want to learn about lighting, come to Joe's workshop or buy his book, because I've studied on this and I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. For whatever reason, very early in my career, I gravitated towards playing with light. Available light is always there, right? And I grew up as a newspaper wire service photographer, and I would shoot a press conference, a football game, or this or that, where I had no control at all over the situation that was being presented to me. But I also realized walking in, say, an environment like here at Grays, your eye is this amazing instrument and can see everywhere and adjust, on a millisecond basis. The chip or film back in the day can't do that. So the application of light is something that's very, very profoundly necessary for a photographer.
I'm just going to ask a little question here. We haven't seen you for, I feel like it's been 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not going mad. You didn't we didn't miss last year's.
Nope.
which should be an annual event to see you.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, exactly. So in the last 12 months, or you could go 24 if you want, but what's been like your highlight in terms of what you've done, whether it's been a piece of professional work you've done or a workshop? Is there anything that's really stood out to you that you thought that's one to remember?
Sure. There's been, thankfully, a couple of, serious high moments in the last couple of years. I got a new client that I've worked now for 2 years, really solid. And the beautiful thing about, the marketplace today, even though there's some not beautiful things about it, companies have come around to realizing, whereas they used to require an annual report, big corporations, they now realize they need a photo library of effective stills to put out on social media platforms and use in all manner of publications and releases and this and that. So I had some really, really wonderful time I spent shooting for a very large infrastructure firm, which sounds kind of boring, right? But it's not. The thing is that this outfit is responsible for drawing electricity from the windmills out in the ocean all through Long Island and servicing a big chunk of the New York City metropolitan area. They do huge stuff. So I was on, cherry pickers flying over power lines. I was in tunnels. I had to go through closed space training. I had to go through electrical substation training, all that stuff, and I have to work in situations where I'm constrained because of some of the dangers of the ever-present huge voltage that's running through some of these lines, et cetera. So I had a great time doing that because to me it was just like doing a Life magazine or National Geographic story, a very human element, but also combining that with technology and getting behind the scenes of like how stuff works, which is, great fun to do.
Really cool.
And then just this past year, I was very gratified. Nikon USA came to me and asked me to do a lot of the marketing for two brand new lenses, the 35mm f1.2 and the 2470 S2.
Yes.
So it's both tried and true lenses, right? These are historically useful lenses that have been in photographers' camera bags for many years, but these new adaptations are astonishing. Yeah. And so I was very gratified by that they would turn and say, Joe, take these lenses and do something with them. And it was a little fraught too, because, you guys know, you work with Nikon. They don't play fast and loose with pre-production lenses. They come with Nikon personnel. And
Yes.
You take the lens and you use it for the day and then you give it back.
They're handcuffed to
That's
them.
right. That's right.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And so for the 2470, I shot the whole marketing campaign in one day.
Wow.
I had the lens for 14, 15 hours.
Amazing.
And at the end of the day, I gave it back.
But that must be so satisfying as a photographer as well, to be able to do a project in such a tight constraint.
Under
in terms of
pressure.
time, under pressure, but still deliver the product. Like, do you get a little buzz or a rush out of that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The more pressure, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And we had a wonderful scenario. I'm blessed in that my studio manager, Lynn Del Mastro, has been with me for 33 years, and she's an astonishing producer. So, the kiss of death in a situation like that is when things go wrong, and I don't know, the transportation doesn't show up or something, people have the wrong addresses or whatever it might. As a photo shoot, generally speaking, anything that could go wrong will go wrong. But Lynn is so experienced as a producer that the day just went off beautifully, flawless, and all the concentration I had in me, all the energy, I was able to direct to the photographs, and I didn't have to worry about the setup, the insurance, the permits, the transportation, the crew, etc. It was just all done.
Yeah, it's super important.
Give us a rough idea how much prep goes into one day shoot before the actual shoot happens.
Sure, and I know I can answer this. It will vary with the complexity of the shoot, but this particular shoot with the 2470 was one day in the field. Lynn worked almost nonstop on pre-production for 3 straight weeks.
Wow. Yeah, having a good producer at your back, whether you're doing videography or whether you're doing stills production, I think they're worth their weight in gold or more. Actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. We flew in talent from Los Angeles. She found great talent. Of course, the beaches of New York City, where we shot sunrise stuff, It's not just one permit. Of course not. It's two.
Of course.
You have to drill through two separate bureaucracies. You have to hire in a location scout. He did a whole, a great sweep, but then I have to go out with him and follow up and see the locations firsthand. Okay, insurance has to be procured in addition to the permits. We have to arrange for crew transportation, equipment transportation. Of course, I had the ridiculous idea. We worked with a triathlete, and I guess it wasn't a ridiculous idea. I was in the back of a pickup truck. I was roped in, and I'm hanging off the back of a pickup truck as she's pedaling like mad, so we had to make arrangements for a driver and a pickup truck, that kind of thing. So
Amazing.
all the stuff, the little details, I always liken taking a job. Once you say yes, I'm going to take the job. I'm going to do, that's like jumping out of the airplane.
Right.
You pull the ripcord and the plane flies off and you're all by yourself and you have to work it out.
Yeah. Amazing. So we'll call that section is it Lynn? The Lynn Appreciation segment.
Lynn Del Mastro Appreciation Week.
We love it. That's amazing.
So you've been professional photographers for over 50 years now?
It's getting there. I allowed myself the title of professional photographer in 1978.
1970.
And that was when I looked around and realized it wasn't any big revelation or anything. I thought, wow, I'm paying all my bills with a camera.
Incredible.
Cool.
And then I realized that's at least part of the definition of being a pro. Because when I grew up, the only yardstick for success, really, or your efficiency as a photographer was, can you shoot? Are you a good photographer? Can you turn around a job? And by those lights, if you gain the respect of your peers and kind of entered those ranks of being a professional, that was a big deal, And then when you get to a point where your reputation enlarges a little bit and people look at you, as has happened with me occasionally, people refer to you as a pro's pro, which basically means you can do anything with a camera. And I sort of grew up with the notion of that. I was very lucky in that I was shooting for Time Inc. and Time Warner magazines. And still back in the day, the 28th floor, up there were the photographer's offices. And, I'd go up there to get film or something from the equipment depot. Alfred Eisenstadt will walk past me. Hey, McNally. Hey, Izzy. How's it going? And we would sit. We'd be like kids. There was a coffee break room, and we would sit on the floor and listen to Ralph Morse, Carl Maidans, Gordon Parks, Eisenstadt, Jean Milly. They all had offices up there.
Wow.
And so this is it's like Christmas.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in that tradition because that style of photography that Life did basically meant that the photographer in the field had to be able to do anything.
I'm curious if there is any unicorn shoot for you, something that you haven't done yet that you would still like to do, or a person that you would like to shoot that you haven't done, living or no longer with us. I'm just curious, is there I would still like to do this and that would be really satisfying, or that would be like another, star on the lapel, shall we say?
Sure. I've always been fascinated with human faces.
Yeah.
So I have, kind of a library or Rolodex of those faces. I would love to try something with those. But that's kind of, a lot of that stems from Hollywood and whatnot. And I don't really do celebrity work anymore. No. So that is not going to probably come my direction. But the idea of continuing to do effective stories and the idea of presenting them in a coherent way that has logic and power, because there's so much stuff out there. I won't get more specific than that.
Yeah.
And so much of it is being altered. So much of it is being shot in, I don't know, I don't want to be judgmental here, but it feels like slipshod or casual fashion.
Yeah.
And then it's fixed later.
Yeah.
The one thing that I will try to do until I hang it up is be successful in the field. Tell good stories in the field. Be honest and true to your subjects, to the subject matter. Present a story that has weight, that has gravity, that will make people look, that will make people think, that will get people angry or make them cry or make them pause. I mean, when you're on Instagram, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Whatever, and people are looking at pictures in a matter of seconds. So what I'm hoping to do still hope to do, and we've been, had relative success, I guess, over the years, because I'm still doing it, is make people stop
Yeah.
just for a few seconds. If you can do that as a photographer, you've more than halfway done your job in this oversaturated environment that we are in.
100%. And art in any form, but I think most noticeably in the visual form is something that has a quality of communication. So obviously the communication that you're putting out there elicits a response, as you say, and it communicates to the person. It's not just sort of like, I always know when something comes up on my screen, I'm like, that's a Joe McNally shot. And there's a couple of other photographers that I follow that I always know it's theirs, but also every single time it gives me that like excitement almost, like, oh wow, that's a new shot by that photographer. I think that's super admirable in a world where people are just, it's all about quantity, not quality.
Consumption is crazy.
Yeah.
The way we consume media nowadays is absolutely very different from even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Pictures by the pound.
Yeah.
There's a actor's studio show, and the interviewer, whose name I should know, but I've forgotten, interviewed Richard Avedon. And it's one of my favorite interviews. And he said to Avedon, he says, is photography art? And Avedon simply looked back and said, if it's done well.
Right.
Right,
exactly.
And the power of that logic is really strong,
Yeah.
and that's formidable, So, yes, I hope to hold the flag for as long as I can. It's tough. I mean, there's absolutely no, argument against the fact that the field has changed. I mean, the field has changed, and most of it I celebrate. The democracy of digital. There's more people shooting pictures than ever before. And that's absolutely wonderful. And the ability that I have, that I kind of got thrown into teaching about 20 years ago, found that I liked it, that I'm a good teacher and I enjoy the company of photographers. And so if I can pass on some of what I know, that's all to the good as well, because this is very much a pass it on business. I was mentored, sometimes quite fiercely.
School of Hard Knocks.
Want to see the scars? But yeah, photography or photographic information has no value unless you just pass it on.
Yeah.
Unless you give it away. So, and there are photographers out there, I'm sure they feel there are secrets. There's no secrets to this. Work hard, communicate well. And this is a old phrase, it sounds trite, but you have to follow your passion. And I've always coached photographers in the sense I've been shooting dance for 40 years. And it was complete happenstance that I fell into it, because I ended up, my second apartment in New York City was a block away from Lincoln Center. And all these dancers would go in there and practice. And I got to know a couple, and I would shoot their practice sessions, And I found myself to be an everlasting fan of ballet and dance in general. And so I always say to folks who are pursuing this, find something that you feel is so beautiful that you can't help but photograph it.
Yeah.
You are helpless in the face of it because it draws you so powerfully. And for me, that's been the world of dance for many years. It's almost been like a safety valve for me. It's like Jay Maisel, very famous photographer. He would do a corporate job for lots and lots of money. And then he always told me, he said, at the end of the day, I'd take like a long lens up to my roof and I'd shoot sunsets just to feel clean again.
Wow. Yeah.
And I have we're in the process of launching a new site that'll be widely available in January. And it's called Better Pictures with Joe.
Ooh.
And in the context of that site, I'll have a section devoted to my book library. I've got probably 300 to 400 photo books. Annie is a very patient woman, my wife. And sometimes I just go back to those books and I flip through them, and it reminds me of why I do this.
Right. And that's actually a really good lesson. Apart from your 3 excellent rules, which I will reiterate: work hard, communicate well, follow your passion. Those are Joe's 3 rules for better photography. But also, I think looking back at your work, just as a body of work for any photographer is important, because not only does it show you how far you've come, but also why you started in the first place. I'd imagine there's a degree of that.
Sure. During the pandemic, it was very painful, but a very small silver lining for us was that Lynn and I were able to go through my entire archive of transparencies, thousands and thousands. And we threw out a lot of stuff, and I went back over jobs, and it was revelatory, because some things I'd look at and say, wow, yeah, I haven't looked at this. This is pretty good, And then other jobs I'd look at and say, oh my God, I'm surprised I ever got another assignment,
Wow.
So you do have to go to school on what you've done before,
Yeah.
and hopefully you improve,
I mean, after all these years, for you as a photographer, there's still more to learn for you. Do you still learning new things every day?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. I gobble up tutorials, because the pace of technology, even for someone like me, who I know how to work a camera, but, I think we were talking off camera about, for instance, the Z9, and the technology it represents. And I said quite candidly, I could go to my grave, and there'll be options in the Z9 that I won't access, because there's so much technology in there. And I celebrate that. It's wonderful to have that. And if I need to access some of it on a particular basis, if I get a job, then I know I can maybe dive into a certain kind of menu option or something that will assist me. I was just in Iceland, for instance, shooting Northern Lights. So certain aspects of self-timer and auto bracketing and this and that, I deployed all of those. Very handy. Made the job of standing out there freezing, you're off, in front of looking up at the Northern Lights, and made it easier. So to that degree, I really am very fond of the technology because it makes the job easier. But I don't worship that technology. I'm not ardently waiting, like the folks who stand outside the Apple store 3 days before a launch of a new iPhone. That ain't me.
Yeah.
That ain't me,
So Z9 came out in December 2021. So we are going to go on the 5th year, basically, of this Gen 3 technology. We assume that Nikon will launch a Z9 Mark II at some point next year. As a photographer, is there any features that you think that they can improve on or introduce with a new camera? Or are you quite happy with what you have already?
I'm very happy with the Z9. I'm sure there's always room for minor tweaks and improvements in the autofocus in general. I mean, I found that on the 2470. That lens, I believe, I'm not telling a falsehood here, I think there's 6 motors in it, as opposed to 3 in the older lens.
Gen 1.
Please just take that as something that comes from my memory. But the autofocus, the nimble response of that lens in the AF realm was amazing.
Wow.
So that kind of incremental improvement, I think, is perfectly welcome. I don't see how the camera, from the status of a Z9, I don't see a sea change or a dramatic sort of leap forward from that. I mean, whenever the new cameras come out, one of my first reactions is, how much better is this going to get?
Yeah.
For some folks who are out there screaming on the internet, obviously there's room for improvement in every realm. And I just shake my head, I mean, what do you want the camera to do? Do you want it to cook your breakfast for you? Do you want it to give you a massage? What would you like specifically?
I'd like it to do my laundry for me so that I can
there
go
you
out and
go.
take more pictures
There you-
from the camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm paying £5,000 for a camera, I can't expect anything less
I
than
would
this.
like it to make coffee.
Last time we spoke, it was about the same time 2 years ago. Has your photography changed in the last 2 years in terms of commercial work you did? Were there particular trends you see in commercial photography where you've been asked to do things different in the last 2 years compared to, let's say, your previous 2 years?
I'm going to say there's a couple of ways of framing that. I would say the essential ingredients of what we do for a job have remained the same mix. People come to us for really solid reporting and good representation, good stories, good human elements behind those stories, etc. So that has not changed. I think the way we work has gotten a little more efficient. because the Z9 is a tremendously efficient camera. And I also now liaison with some very fast cards. So certain download speeds are faster, writing to the computer, storing things, all of that has gotten faster. So that, it's minor, but the acceleration, incremental acceleration of some of the technology is very helpful out in the field. And when you're copying work and when you have a high priority job, like I did, for instance, for the 2470, we came out of the field with, 2 or 3 cards that day, shot a lot of pictures, and we were like, okay, all right, nobody go near those until we copy them at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of thing is always on our mind. Companies are one of the things that Lynn, who has tremendous experience and been with the studio for so long, and I do, is we find ourselves in a position of educating clients because art directors and certain representatives of various business are younger and younger, and oftentimes the request is kind of off the charts. We want to own this, we want to, copyright transfer. And Lynn is very good at saying, okay, you don't really need all that because that would get very expensive. So let's sit down and talk about it. And we find ourselves guiding people through the process of what the fees that they are paying a creative fee. You're also paying a digital package fee. You're also paying for assistance, the scope of the job. Well, that's going to require 2 assistants, et cetera, the pace of the job. How many selects do you want? All of that, which is no photographer in this business is a stranger to those kinds of questions. But we do find ourselves in a position of being sort of advanced in terms of the experience level that we bring to the party. And so we are in a position sometimes where we find ourselves coaching clients a little bit.
Makes sense. I don't think that there is anything that can replace your level of experience as well, because people will have come fresh out of university, or even if they've been on the job for a couple of years, you have such a wealth of knowledge to back you up that no one can replicate. So that definitely, hopefully, works in your favor.
Well, hopefully that backlog of experience, there's one thing that it does for me. It keeps me calm.
Right.
Because over the years, you have certain things that go wrong on a job, and I'll have an assistant come up to me and it's like, the light, it's supposed to rain. We just lost it. And I'm like, okay, can you tell me what I'm supposed to do about the rain?
Is there a switch somewhere?
Can't do anything about it, so I'm not going to worry about it. We'll just persevere and we'll work it out. And, the other thing that accrues to you, which I find very powerful, and it's going to sound a little odd, is the power of saying no. And when you look at a situation and you think to yourself, okay, in another life, if I had a 600 millimeter and I had 4 assistants and a truckload of I could make that work, But you look at it and say, not today, because it's going to take up the lion's share of my time and energy, and I have to be efficient for the client. I have to use my time in the most efficient way I can possibly imagine for their benefit. So you have to look at situations, and I always say you have to distill, drain out all the extraneous stuff and realize what is the heart of the matter here, and go after it in the most efficient way that is possible. And I know the term efficiency sounds like, like an efficiency motel out on the highway or something. I'm not talking about not making good pictures. I'm talking about being a pro and moving the job forward with a great deal of professionalism so that the results at the end are on time and you've used the day well and you've produced good results for the client.
It's one point of being professional is delivering on time, no matter what happens in between, isn't it? So, and it's something that when you start in is very difficult to grasp, and then the more you learn on the job, kind of the easier it becomes, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, I'll just cite the 2470 job. Nikon wanted potential field of selects, I think, within 48 hours.
Wow.
And I had shot probably 4,000 to 5,000 frames that day.
Wow.
And so, you just bend your concentration to it, and you sit and you go and you go and you go, and you're just, again, distilling, and you just get the take down to the essential bones of it. And that is always the best thing to do too, because, as photographers, we're emotional, we get attached to our work.
Yes.
And, some folks sometimes at the studio, they would kid, oh, look, that's one of Joe's favorite pictures. And it's not a picture that anybody else likes. Okay, fine. All right, I get it, But here's the thing. You are, taking this job and you're delivering it to the client. You can't get hung up on the experience you had in the field, like, oh, it was raining that day and the lightning came, or the truck turned over, or we got 3 flat tires. That's not of a concern to the client.
Yeah.
And so you get emotionally involved with that and say, oh, maybe I should put this one in because of what I went through to get it, even though the picture comes up short in terms of full delivery.
Wow.
So I learned that a long time ago. Less is more. Because if you flood the client with potential selects or too much information, they're highly likely to choose a picture that you don't like so well.
Right.
So it's your job as a photographer first, and then an editor of that work that you've produced, to be coherent in your delivery.
Okay, good. So that leads me to my final question. What's next for you? What's the next 12 months look like?
Well, it's an evolution as we all go through year after year. Things change, etc. But astonishingly, we are coming up on the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 tragedy in New York City, which is not it's a memorable day. It's not a happy day, obviously. But I got very involved in the aftermath of 9/11 and photographing first responders, and a selection of that work is now incorporated into the 9/11 Museum. It occupies a fairly big section of one of the wings. And I have a relationship with the museum, and they have talked to me about offering proposals, which I already have done, and probably conversation will start very early next year about what potentially we might be able to collaborate on to commemorate this very powerful anniversary, 25 years on, of one of the most formidable and life-changing days, heart-wrenching days ever in the history of the world, certainly in the history of the United States, and in particular, obviously, New York City. Yeah. It changed us forever. And so those kinds of steps that I will take sort of backwards into that project, find people, work with people, and try to bring about a set of photographs that has the power of memory and evocation, because there's a whole generation that has grown up that has no knowledge of that day.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, it's true. I mean, my kids are teenagers now, believe it or not, and for them it's history. When I tell them I remember where I was when I heard the news, I was in the car park at school because of the time difference when we found out, in our secondary school, and they're like, "You were alive during that?" Like, yes, and even the world as they see it now, for them, which is normal, even small procedures and things that have changed in the day-to-day that were firmly rooted in that day, that everyone sort of takes for granted. So it's important, and I think that's a very powerful project. That's fascinating. So that will take up the bulk of your year, you think?
I don't think the bulk of it, but a significant aspect of it for sure, in terms of emotional storytelling.
Yeah. Cool.
Do you have any workshops coming up that people can book?
Yes. This podcast will be broadcast right before I'm doing a holiday lights workshop in New York City later on in December, which is always just a fun and charming and wonderful workshop. And there's, I think, one spot left. Next year, I'm in Asia teaching, and also in Sicily. And then, the rest of the year, we've kind of held it open a bit to see what the possibilities are with the 9/11 Museum, to see how time will need to be spent and what direction we'll go.
Thank you, Joe, for stopping by.
Thank you. Thank you, guys, as always. I love to be here, and I'm so glad that both of you, still rally around this podcast.
We do. There's no getting rid of us.
That's
honestly.
right.
I'm glad for that.
Yeah, our DNA is in this shop, so you can't get rid of us that easily, really.
Yep.
And I think it became a staple of you coming here and visiting us, not every year, but, every 2 years or so. And it's been an absolute pleasure to see you every time you come in.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always very gracious welcome here.
Excellent.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much for watching and or listening. Please give us a like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and a follow, rating, or even a review if you're listening on a podcast platform.
Where can we find you, Joe?
Well, as most photographers, I'm on the internet. I have an Instagram account. Joe McNally Photo is my Instagram handle. And come January, if you Google this phrase, Better Pictures with Joe, it'll bring you to a new site that we're actually, I say we're still developing, but is actually live right now. It's just a slow rollout. And so come January, hit that particular title and it'll bring you to that page.
Excellent. Watch this space.
And we'll see you again sometime soon. No, is that all right?
Does that feel natural? And we'll
Okay.
see you again sometime soon.
And we'll see you again. Fade into the black.
Oh my God. Can I do that better, Chloe?
Yes,
I'm
please.
You know, and these two magnificent human beings will be back on this channel anytime soon. Stay tuned. It's going to be awesome. They're going to bring in people. You can't believe the power of the people they're going to be interviewing. It's astonishing. Stay tuned, folks. Don't miss it.
I like that.
Joe, you hired. You hired on the spot.
How's that?
Really? Yeah.
And